Hi, everyone. It's Sister Elizabeth, and you are listening to In the Company of Charity, the podcast of the Daughters of Charity. And we are very blessed today, Sister Liz and I, who's here with me, to be here with you on this third Sunday of Advent.
Yeah, so this is like sprint to the finish, guys. We have a very short Advent this year, so we have to try and take advantage of all the good times. And please do not skip this episode because my buddy, Sister Mary Kay, is with us to talk about her reflections on the third Sunday of Advent. So, what a gift! What a gem!
Oh, she is an absolute gem. There's no doubt about it. She is just precious, a precious gem for sure. I love, I'm just going to give this little bit away. So that you and she have this bond over the Greatest Showman
The
movie.
Greatest Showman, which is an amazing movie, y'all. I don't
I,
know why anyone would argue.
I thought I'm listening and I'm thinking, I thought this was our Advent episode, but I just loved that little beginning, and but you will be, you know, just blown away, I think, by once you get past their little relationship, Sister Liz and Sister Mary Kay's relationship around The Greatest Showman. Sister Mary Kay just, I think, just represents the fidelity and the longevity of a daughter of charity who just consistently finds Christ present in the poor that she serves. You know, the encounter with Christ uh, throughout her story and then throughout her reflection to me is just so profound, really. It's just, and that was, I think, what I took away from this episode. So I'd really, like our listeners to kind of think about that and how this woman for many years has given her life to the service of those who are vulnerable, those who live in poverty, those who are struggling, and each time she's encounters the people that she's been called to serve, she finds this precious Christ. She finds the precious gem, right?
Mm.
And then in turn, that transforms her into one because she's such a witness to that love.
You are going to hear her about her experience as a midwife, which is just like beyond my comprehension. So it's cool that there are people who find that a meaningful and ministry and call to that. But I think one thing we didn't mention in her interview, and she's very modest, but she has been a mentor to many of the young sisters and to me as well. And so, here's somebody who's prayed with these things for decades. There's a lot of richness to the stories of Christmas, and we are never going to be able to come to an end of learning and growing and reflecting on these things and applying it to our situation and to our work with the poor and vulnerable. And so, thank you to Sister Mary Kay. And if you know her, you love her, and if you don't, you got to get to know her. She's in Evansville, so go find her. Tell her we sent you.
That's right. She'll love it. She'll love it. Yeah. She will welcome you as she welcomes anyone, and she will welcome you the way we will be welcoming Christ, in this time of we're coming closer and closer to Christmas, and remembering that this birth of this child has also opened up for us the second coming as well, right? And so we are eagerly awaiting both the anniversary of Christ's birth and the coming of Christ. And in the meantime, we continue to see Christ and encounter him in those we serve. So it's really an amazing, really amazing thing.
Yes. Enjoy this episode, guys, and share it, copy the link, and post it on social media, send it to a friend. It means a lot. And we'll be praying for you as we hit the home stretch of a short Advent this year. Many blessings on you guys. Okay, here we are. Welcome, everybody. You are listening to In the Company of Charity podcast. And I'm here with a dear friend, Sister Mary Kay. I'm so excited to have you on. Thank you for agreeing to be on the podcast.
Well, thank you for asking. I feel very honored to be part of this. It's a wonderful adventure.
Yes, well, we have to share about how we know each other. We actually lived in the same local community very briefly, although I feel like I've known you forever. But
Well, that's true because you really did a lot of things for me because of the generation gap, and I was introduced to The Voice and a lot of television things that I would never have turned on myself. And also, we watched that movie together. The oh gosh, what it was the the one about the circus fella that made good and lost his fortune. Do you remember that?
oh, P.T. Barnum, yes.
One of those shows. But the music was so fantastic, wasn't it? I
Yes, it's The Greatest Showman.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. So anyway, I think that was our bond. But we've been bonded anyway because I pray for you all the time.
Oh,
I like your our audience today, to know that we are connected within our community as Daughters of Charity. So whatever we do, wherever we are, when we have special bonding with people, it's just wonderful and increases the prayer, really.
and
So
I was saying before we started recording that you're the only person that gets to call me precious. Although you call a lot of people precious, so it's an interesting dynamic there.
okay, but they're all precious to me. So anyway, that's that story.
Well, let's let's dive in. Well, actually, before we dive in, just tell us where you are,
Okay.
how long you've been in the community, what's been your professional experience, all that.
Okay. My name is Sister Mary Kay Tyrell. I'm from Chicago originally, and I grew up in an Irish Catholic family and neighborhood. So I talked funny for a while, but when we went to school, we had a lady that was an actress, of all things, and she taught us diction. She taught us how to say things and how to inflect, because the Irish brogue was just beyond her comprehension. So anyway, I feel like I have that in my past. I'm a nurse, and I became a nurse midwife, and I practiced that for about 12 years, and I delivered over 2,000 babies. So I have a little credibility for the gospel that we're going to talk about in a little bit. Besides being a nurse midwife, I've really I've been a nurse in several of our when we had our hospitals, and then I became a mission leader in our hospital system, and I did that for about 12 years, 15 years. Then I started raising money. I did that as short as possible. As soon as somebody else was available, I gave that up. So after that, I just kind of floated around helping to close missions, and that took about 5 years. And then, let's see, I went to a food pantry in Niagara Falls, and that was a very favorite, heartfelt mission. It was just absolutely wonderful, and I made the best friends there. I was in the community at that time for 50 years. So, celebrating my Golden Jubilee, I decided to do it with the people that we served at the food pantry. And that was very good. Now, the people didn't understand what a Jubilee was, and, it didn't mean much to them, but they thought it was like an anniversary, so that was okay. But the food was free and the food was good, and they enjoyed as much as they could. So anyway, now I have been a daughter of charity for 57 years, and I'm retired, living at Seton Residence, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful place. I feel humbled to be here. Um, we know horror stories from other places where people retire. That does not happen here, and I'm surrounded by wonderful, wonderful sisters. And tomorrow we're having a funeral for one of our sisters, and on the feast day of our Blessed Mother, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to gather and remember her life and all the goodness that she shared with other people. So anyway, that's a long, long journey to get you for uh, where we are today. So would you like me to read the gospel passage?
Yes, please. That would be great.
This is the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 1, verses 18 to 25. This is how the birth of Jesus Christ came about. When his mother Mary was betrothed to Joseph, but before they lived together, she was found with child through the Holy Spirit. Joseph, her husband, since he was a righteous man, yet unwilling to expose her to shame, decided to divorce her quietly. Such was his intention when, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary, your wife, into your home, for it is through the Holy Spirit that this child has been conceived in her. She will bear a son, and you are to name him Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. Behold, the virgin shall be with child and bear a son, and they shall name him Emmanuel, which means God is with us. When Joseph awoke, he did as the angel of the Lord had commanded him and took his wife into his home. He had no relations with her until she bore a son, and he named him Jesus. Well, that's a good description of the conception, anyway. And as I read this, I took the example of Bella when she talked about what things meant to her in that passage. So I thought I would talk to you about what it meant to me as a nurse midwife. And first of all, this might be an unholy thought, but uh, it occurred to me that the angel could have waited a while. He could have waited until they married and maybe instructed them not to do anything, not to have any relations, as they say in the scriptures. But he didn't. They did that before they were married. So right off the bat, we have an example of what could happen in a pregnancy, and that it was all right in a way. Um, all right in the way that we would look at that mother and respect her and honor her, no matter what the circumstances of the conception was. Now, in Mary's case, of course, it was miraculous and it was by the Holy Spirit, and it was not the conventional way things are done. So we can't correlate that completely to what we do, but we believe it, and we honor those words and the actions that took place. For me, as a nurse midwife, I saw a lot of single mothers. Um, they all have their own story, and I can remember one of the women. She was a prostitute, and she had three lovely little girls from some of her some of her relations, and she was a wonderful mother, and she did what she did because she needed the money to care for them, and she did very well. But I think the point of that is, when I look at her, and I thought she was a lovely, lovely woman. And I think it gives a good example in the gospel that we do look at these mothers with just total support, with hope, with joy, with charity, and sometimes, if they have needs, that we also supply material things. So all of these things are really found in the scriptures, but you really have to meditate on them to get some of those points across. Um, Also, I think sometimes when a child is born, and the mother feels like she can't care for the child, it's a great act of love on her part to give the child up for adoption. Then we trace the joy and we look at the foster parents who care for the child for a while, and then the forever parents who are then able to take the child home and bring the child up in their tradition. So there is joy, even though there's sadness, and I think the Gospels words tell us that we, if we have hope, if we have hope, it helps. It helps a lot, and a lot of times, uh, single mothers need hope. That's one thing that is really apparent. They feel sometimes that nobody cares for them. Um, I had a young woman, she was 15 at the time. Her mother didn't care for her, didn't um, do anything for her, and she lived with her grandmother. And her grandmother was elderly, lovely, lovely woman. She was very fond of this granddaughter. Anyway, this child came to me for care. Anyway, we became very good friends, and we were able to get to her the things that she needed to care for the baby because she wanted to care for the child. She did not want to go for adoption. So she really needed just someone to journey with her, um, because her mother was just unavailable and her grandmother was a little bit too old. So, again, the Gospels give us the direction we need to extend ourselves and to reach out. Now, Mary and Joseph had an angel to give them directions. So, that was pretty cool. But sometimes we have to, to make those opportunities for others so that they can have that kind of support.
I find it so fascinating from your perspective as a midwife, that number one, the dignity of every human person, no matter the circumstance, because it's easy to say, well, like, you
Mhm.
shouldn't be prostituting yourself out there,
Right.
or like, oh, what a circumstance for a child to be born into.
Hmm.
Maybe she should have done this or she should have done that, and it's kind of easy for someone outside the situation to say, well, this is the way it needs to be. um, but it sounds like to me your attitude was more on the accompaniment side of walking along with these women who were struggling, and to share life with them essentially, and to give whatever wisdom that you were able to in the moment. And so how do you strike that balance there
Hmm.
of supporting, but then also saying, like, no, you should do it this way? When you're caring for a child, you don't just say, like, hey, use any old car seat. You've got to have very specific recommendations of
Hmm.
best practices.
Hmm. Yeah, it just draws on a lot of different things. You know that as a counselor too. You see the same women that I do. We don't have much to do with the conception, but it's the after part of it that really requires unique attention, because every woman has her own story. Everyone, and it's just an honor, really, to be able to serve them. It makes us really important in the ways of channeling things. Uh, we're not able to do things, but we're able to enable them to see in themselves that they can do this. They can. So,
A lot of times when we look at the scriptures, we're only getting a small little slice of
mm,
everything.
correct.
Um, when you prayed around, and maybe, over time, this sort of, you got to meditate on different aspects, or like, what kind of blanks did you fill in of what Mary's experience might have been like, or praying with Mary's experience of giving birth, or of what that was like in a stable and things like that. What were your reflections on that?
I always take this reflection seriously, as you can tell. Um, in every Advent, it's different, but I think my reflection is, remember, she was just a girl. She was only 13 or 14. Or however, scripture scholars know this, but anyway, um, when you think of a 13-year-old child, she doesn't know much about life, let alone about motherhood and conception. So my heart is always with her, to lift her up and to say, you can do this, you can do this, because the deed has been done. She's already conceived. And so here she is, and she's carrying this wonderful child, sitting on a camel with her husband to be, and going up to be registered. That was a long trip on a donkey, and it could not have been comfortable with her that advanced in her pregnancy. So I think about all of those things. Did she have nausea and vomiting like other mothers do? Did she have this? Did she have that? Did she have Braxton Hicks contractions? And you just wonder, even though her birth was miraculous, um, were the other symptoms of pregnancy also miraculous and non-existent? So whatever the case, I just hope that she did it, with as much help as she could to overcome any discomfort that she had. And then, of course, to have the child, it was a miraculous delivery, so she didn't have to go through pain, I presume, I would hope. But still, a 13-year-old girl, if you hand her a baby, what is she going to do with it? you know? But um, I think in their culture, there were probably plenty of people around to help her mother and her aunts probably, and her neighbors, and so people did share things. I think there's a poem or a prayer that I somehow remember reading about the midwife in the stable, and that talks about the midwife, cleaning up after the birth and getting everything tidied away and getting the mother presentable so she can hold her baby and show it to her husband. Um, so all of those things that happened normally, I just I just wonder how it all went. I guess it did. Jesus lived to be 33, so he was healthy, and he was able to do a lot of things mentally, and he is very intelligent. So he was a nice, normal baby.
Did you, I mean, as a sister, being a midwife, was that weird for you at first? I mean, you presumably wouldn't have had the same experiences as the ladies that you were working with, or was there resistance from people like, oh, you're a nun, so like this is strange?
No, I didn't have. The thing that was strange was when I was working at a hospital in the maternity department, and Sister Virginia Kingsbury was our counselor at the time, and she said to me, "It's time for you to go to graduate school. What would you like to specialize in?" So I didn't have to think hard on this. I said, "Well, I'd like to either go into pediatrics or geriatrics." That was all that was said. And had to go to the University of Jackson, Mississippi. So I traveled there, and I went to the registrar, and he said, "Oh, great, you're registered for the nurse midwifery course." And I looked at him. I said, "Oh, I think you got the wrong chart." I did, midwifery was not in my mindset at all. In fact, I thought, I don't. Oh, I don't know. It's just I didn't want to be a midwife, for heaven's sakes. And so I muddled over that. But you know what? some of the things that people who have, I'm not going to say control, but who have the authority to direct you, might direct you in a place you wouldn't want to go, but it was very fruitful. Every day of my life as a midwife, I would just thank God that I was given the opportunity to be educated and to learn how to do what I do. And every child that I touched, I felt like it was from God's hands to mine. I'd be the first person to touch this little soul. And so it was always a terrific experience. And I think that was that way for Mary too. I think she was enthralled. But anyway, no, people did not think it was weird. In fact, where I practiced, it wasn't a Catholic area at all in the deep South in Montgomery, Alabama. And we served a lot of area around there. But people were very respectful toward sisters. I don't know why exactly, but I didn't mind it. It really it helped in a lot of ways to well, especially with those who were somewhat impoverished and those who were very impoverished. So I just took it as a blessing.
Mm.
If they
Well,
didn't
and it, go
if
ahead.
they didn't want to have a Catholic sister, I don't think they would have come to me. They would have known.
I just, I love that little piece that you were talking about that you didn't even think about being a midwife or going into that. And yet somehow God in his providence led you down this path. And I think it mirrors a little bit in the gospel because the situation was weird. The situation was unexpected. They didn't maybe know exactly how it was all going to shake out, and it was messy, and it was at maybe what people would have said is the wrong time. You know, bad timing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And yet that in that circumstance, in those the messiness, comes the savior of the world.
mm-hmm,
um, I think that's just it's so neat to hear you speak about being a midwife to ladies who were in crisis or
mm-hmm,
were didn't know what to do or how to do it,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and in that comes a miracle, a new
Really,
life.
it is a miracle. It really is. It certainly is a very blessed ministry. Very blessed.
And so in your reflections and as we sort of think about what would we recommend for people as they're going through Advent, what are sort of the lessons that you would say from this passage, from your experience that you shared? Like what are some helpful ideas for people to take away from this? About Jesus's birth, because it's a beautiful story, but you could just say it's like a painting, or you can look at it as clean and
Mm-hmm.
perfect and all of that when it really wasn't necessarily that way.
Mm-hmm. I would say to look at the different characters that were present and put yourself in their situation. What were they thinking? What were they doing? The shepherds, um, and probably, well, I'm not going to say the animals, but they certainly stood at attention as well. But all the people that you see in the nativity sets that are displayed everywhere. Take a look at those characters, the different people that came, to give honor to Jesus and the Holy Family, and just get inside their skin, see how they were feeling about everything. You know.
It is a good way to meditate, very Ignatian, like to enter into the cave or the stable or whatever
Yeah.
you want to imagine it was.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see? What do you smell? What do what are you touching? um,
Mm-hmm.
those are important things because it's supposed to come alive for us, you know
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
it certainly is a nice story that happened 2,000 years ago, but it can't just stay that.
Hmm. No, it can't. And that's why I believe all of the things are written as they are written, to give people hope and confidence in the future. Giving instructions to Joseph, appearing to Mary, uh, and maybe they said more than what we have recorded, and that would be another meditation to look and see what they said. So all of it gives us courage, and it is very hopeful.
If people get a chance, there's a very beautiful film for the chosen around the birth of Jesus, and there's a scene in it that it just gets me every time. I can't even get through it without tears, of Mary talking to Mary Magdalene about her experience of the birth of Jesus, and how else would we even have this recording without Mary and or Joseph both um, sharing this story or this memory with the disciples, who then shared it and shared it and shared
Mm-hmm.
it and wrote it down eventually. uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure if someone were trying to talk about the Son of God, they would have probably changed some things about some of those details of, not being wed, and, it's the angel that said all this stuff. And maybe they would have come up with something a little more plausible. But um, I just love how this birth represents the journey that we all go through
Mm-hmm.
of miracles in the midst of life's craziness.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a lot to speak to us about how we want to reverence other people and new life, especially, that it's worth protecting and it's worth caring for everybody who's in dire circumstances,
Yeah.
simply because they exist, not for any other reason. Well, is there anything else that we missed or that you feel like we need to add to this? I mean, it's such a rich passage, but we could be here all day, and we want people to be able to go on with their day. Any final thoughts?
No, I just wish we had a little more information about the birth, and about Mary. But I think when we see her on the other side, now we'll learn more.
The behind the scenes.
Yes.
Well, Sister Mary Kay, it means a lot that you came on. Thank you so much for being a part of this and for your wisdom and sharing.
Thank you for asking me.